Board of County Commissioners now back in session. Miss Amy Hampton from the East Point Medical Center update.
Good morning.
Good morning.
Thank you for the opportunity to speak with you. I am Amy Anderson, the Center Manager at East Point Medical Center. I'm here today to give an update for the center. Our goal is to provide quality primary care services for the entire Franklin County community. It is unfortunate that we have to announce that our nurse practitioner, Diane Napier, has moved out of town. She has found new employment to be closer to her home and her family. However, we are very excited to announce that Doris Carmichael has joined North Florida Medical Centers and will begin treating patients Thursday, June 23rd at the center. Carmichael brings to her practice 33 years experience and sees adult and pediatric patients. We accept most insurances, including Capital Health Plan, Medicaid, HMOs, Medicare, and Florida Blue plans. We are also able to offer a discounted fee for services on a sliding fee basis to our patients who do not have insurance or those who are underinsured. A reception will be held for Doris on July 14th from 5:30 to 7 for anyone who would like to join us in celebrating Ms. Carmichael's new transition. In closing, I appreciate the opportunity to speak with you, and please stop by at your convenience to visit the center.
Anybody have anything for Amy?
All right, thank you.
All right, thank you.
Okay, Commissioners, a couple of changes here. One, staff recommends that the discussion with Ms. Barbara Withers go before we address the Board of Adjustment report because one could offset or affect the other, let me put it that way. There's a letter in your packet from Ms. Barbara Withers where she wanted to discuss that's request for replat. And would you want to bring Commissioner Parrish up to date on what we approved at the last meeting, which triggered the replat?
By all means, go ahead.
Basically, I mean, as you do it, I'll pass out the diagram. Oh, yeah.
Oh, go ahead. I was not expecting, this is all ad lib. I did not know I was going to be doing
I
this.
learned it now by the
I can see that. At the last board meeting, there was a discussion about, I believe, an item from your P&Z meeting from the month before where they had discussed a reconfiguration of a lot line between two lots of record that are owned by Ms. Barbara Withers. One of the lot of record being a full, I'm going to say 100-foot wide lot down in Alligator Point area. And then the other lot of record she had is a half of an adjoining lot, I believe, to the west. She now, over the course of decades and been building various improvements on those two lots of record, has had encroachments and improvements that cross over the common boundary between the two lots. She now has a buyer for the half lot of record, and in order for them to retain having a lot of record which is buildable and to account for the various encroachments on the two lots, they are having to adjust take some of the property from lot number one, move it to lot number two, and then take the same amount of property from lot number two and move it over to lot number one. And they're moving the common boundary line between those two lots to accomplish that. In order, again, the purpose of adjusting the lot line is for them to retain a buildable lot of record, which is important for the new buyer moving forward, because if they don't have a lot of record moving forward and their property is damaged more than 51%, then they're not allowed to rebuild. But if the lot is a lot of record and buildable, then the new buyer could rebuild in the event of more than 51% of the structure is destroyed. I don't have any, planning and zoning approved that lot reconfiguration. I don't have any objection to the reconfiguration because you're improving the tax base, you're getting new residents moving to the community. However, in order to accommodate that lot line reconfiguration, the only way I know that you can amend a lot line from a platted subdivision is a replat. So my recommendation to the board was to approve the planning and zoning recommendation subject to a replat. That was then followed by the letter that Ms. Withers sent you, and I think she's here to address you on that.
Honorable Commissioners, thank you for the opportunity to request your review. Since I wasn't here on the 7th of June, I would like to at least ask for your reconsideration. I am in my 80th year and hoping to retire at some point. I bought this property in 1965. I bought 2.5 lots. I also owned the lot on the bay side of the road. And the house I bought was the World War II post office for Camp Gordon Johnson. It's just a little cottage, but I have maintained it and, added to it, kept it up over the years. And then I started homesteading there in 1976. And I've paid taxes for 51 years. Last year they were $10,000. You can multiply that. Plus my property insurance is $15,000 a year. So I'm not able now to take my homestead exemption because I have to rent the property to pay the taxes and the insurance. But anyway, I need to sell this half lot so that I can retire. And on May 17th, it was approved with no strings attached, and I entered into a contract to sell it. And then at the June 7th meeting, which was only supposed to address the variances that we were requesting, Mr. Schuler did, and rightly so, I'm sure, bring up the question about a replat, but the lot line reconfiguration had already been approved on May 17th, and the planning and zoning people said that it wasn't necessary, that you all had not been requiring lot replats, in this type of a situation. So all I'm asking, I've never, over 51 years, ever asked anything of the commission, is to approve it without a replat. Thank you.
Does the commission have any
Mr. Schuler?
questions for me?
Did you speak to, at any time, Mr. Schuler, have you spoke to Ms. Withers about the possible replat,
Yes, ma'am, I have.
possibility of a
Commissioner.
replat?
The P and Z meeting that she's referring to in May is an advisory recommendation to the board. So when she says it's approved, this is not an approval until this board accepts the recommendation and approves it yourself. And as far as the time I became first aware of this issue was at the Board of Adjustment meeting in June. As you know, I've never regularly attended the P and Z meetings. I bet you in 15 years I haven't been to maybe 2 P and Z meetings. Not because I would not go, but because it's been the policy of the board that the county attorney does not attend the P and Z meeting. So if I'd been aware of this earlier on, I could have told her this earlier on and she could have planned for it. So when I first became aware of this in June, I did advise her that since they were moving a platted lot line as part of the lot line reconfiguration, that she would need to replat the property in order to accommodate or to accomplish that. Because
And you told Ms. Withers this?
yes, no, I told her that at whatever the date was for that first meeting in June for the Board of Adjustment.
June 1st, but it had already been approved May 17th without that requirement. So, I'm just begging y'all to make an exception in this case. In all due respect to Mr. Schuler, my attorney didn't think it was necessary.
Okay. Mr. Schuler, what is your opinion of the situation today after listening to Ms. Withers? What is your
Well,
opinion
I'm
today?
sorry if it's created any inconvenience, but really, I would think if you have a willing buyer and a willing seller, they can just do a contract extension. This is a minor replat. They would not have to go through the sketch preliminary. I think they would be able to go directly to a final plat approval, which could be taken care of as soon as your second meeting in July. But my recommendation to you, I don't know any other way to change a platted lot line, which is what we're talking about here, in order for this half lot to retain its buildable nature moving forward for the buyer, because that's what their closing agent said to me, when the closing agent called me last week, that the buyer is really concerned in making sure moving forward that the lot remains buildable. The only way I know to accomplish that is if they have to move the lot line, then they need to do a replat. But it is a minor replat. I understand that the surveyor has already got multiple surveys out there of the two parcels. I think it's really more an issue of the expense to the seller of the replat than it is the fact of the replat itself. But, you know, the
So that's
fact
your
that-
recommendation, to stay with what we did at the
Yes, ma'am.
last
And
meeting?
again, I apologize, Ms. Will, I'm certainly not trying to create any hardship for her or her buyer, but just trying to make sure that if they need to move a platted subdivision lot line to make their sale happen, then the only way I know to legally change a platted lot line is to replat it. And we have been doing replats, I know most recently on St. George Island, but it's been where they've been combining lots together as opposed to changing the lot lines
Instead of
in order
cutting
to
it.
accomplish a sale.
Instead of cutting one out, they've been
Right.
just combining it together.
Could- Mr. Schuler, could the county
Oh, please
agree?
address your question.
I mean, well, could the county agree to allow the buyers to rebuild without the replat? Is that,
No, I'm the one that made the motion, Ms. Withers, and I can tell you that I did it with the evidence, and you saw that I asked questions today. And if the attorney is saying that is my opinion, I'm gonna go with the attorney's opinion. Because his job is to protect the board at all costs and to try to give some satisfaction to the people at the same time.
Excuse me, may I say something?
You would speak your name into the mic.
Daniel Withers, at the last meeting, when Mr. Schuler mentioned something about the replat, never talked to us, but we actually went next door and talked to Amy and Mark and said, okay, what's going on? And they said, we'll get back to you and let you know. Well, let's check it out. They actually called us back and said, we're not going to require you to do that. You don't need to come to the June 7th meeting, you know, because it won't be heard. All y'all do is pay bills. They told us that, and they actually talked about it. And then we got a call saying that, yes, y'all did hear it on the 7th of June, which we weren't, you know, we were told specifically that y'all weren't going to talk about it. And then we were specifically would not need a plat because they actually said, we'll call you back. We left. They called us back and told us we didn't have to get the replat. So now we're being told that, you know, this came up on the meeting in June 7th without our knowledge. We don't believe that you guys have to take, you know, his advice on this and would urge you to reconsider. This lot line, you know, has been there for years. Y'all actually approved the houses being built. You know, this was done through all the right, you know, permitting process and everything that's done to the property. I know that over time, things have gotten better and more technical, but we shouldn't be penalized because of the years going by, you know, over the last 50 years.
Well,
We
let's
just-
get down to it. What's the cost of a replat? About
Thirty-
$3,500?
$3,500, and Thurman
And-
Roddenberry said it'd take 3 to 5 months to get it done, not just 30 days that he's talking about. He said that it is a detailed process.
Well, I am the one that made the motion to approve it because given the information I got, I've heard Ms. Withers and I've heard you, Mr. Withers, and I'm not gonna change my motion. And, you know, I hate to do that, but on the replat, I'm gonna do it on the attorney's recommendation. Do we always take his recommendation? No, but on this, I take his recommendation.
My name's Debbie Kirkland. We have permission to address you all.
ma'am.
I'm the listing agent for this property, a broker at First Story Real Estate Company in Tallahassee. I want you to know that we have done a lot of research leading up to this point. Before we listed the property, we found out what needed to be done. We addressed this with what we thought were the appropriate authorities, which were Roxy and her assistant. And we were, myself, not only myself did this, but also the agent for the buyer, who's present here today, Robin Hilton. We asked specifically, what do we need to do to be able to sell this property? And we were given the instructions by that department on the exact procedure of what we needed to do, which included a new survey with a lot line change that kept the integrity of the square footage of each lot, that prevented us then from having to do the replat. The question was specifically asked to that department, Are you sure we don't need to do a replat? Do we need to do it? Not as long as you keep the square footage the same for each lot, make each lot rebuildable. That is all that you need to do. So this extra step now that presents itself after the fact, after all of those efforts were made, it is a financial hardship. It's a financial hardship to Ms. Withers for prolonging the sale of this property, for the buyer who's also invested in part of the survey procedures and time spent doing this, and now to have a delay, again, to say, this was the procedure all along. If nothing else that you glean from this conversation, my suggestion is that there be better communication between our attorney and the department that he represents and the county that he represents, because misinformation is being given and it has cost taxpayers money. So I would just like to make that statement.
Question.
Yes, sir.
Mr. Schuler, this issue has not come up before, or it has come up before? And what did the county do?
That's probably, well, I don't go to the P and Z meetings, so if it's happened before, it's something I'm not aware of. I mean, these things just don't come to my attention very
The
often.
most recent occasions, and there's been several on St. George Island, where people have combined lots in the plantation, as a matter of fact. And there you have two platted lots, I know the homeowner association said to property owners in the plantation that if you want to reduce your homeowner assessment, you have to legally combine the lots. The only way you can legally combine a lot is to replat it. So yes, in the last few years, which is the only things we had come up, they've been replats to combine lots to reduce assessment so that there's only one legal description of one piece of property, so there's only one building site. I've been the county planner for 28 years. And we have probably allowed lot alterations without talking to the attorney. I mean, that has been, that's the issue here, I'll be blunt. I mean, it wasn't that we were intentionally misleading people, but in our office, if they were small, we looked at them as something that was relatively straightforward, and we did not ask the attorney whether that's what should be done or not. I apologize, but, the attorney has now said this is the opinion, what he needs to follow, and he's the attorney, I'm not the attorney. But had it happened in the past without this attorney or a previous attorney knowing about it, it probably has, or it could have. I mean, I'm not saying it hasn't.
And we were told that that was what was done.
Yeah, and
It
all
was
I can
never
say-
required.
Right, I understand, but the attorney now realizes what we've been doing and saying, look, you should stop doing that, because if it's a platted lot, it needs to be unplatted and replatted. There are certainly lots and lots, and the reason I hesitate to say this, Ms. Withers, is because there are lots of properties in Franklin County that are not platted. They are just deeds recorded on unplatted. East Point is full of it. And in that case, you don't need a replat because there's no plat to amend. You just record a new deed. And so I can't specifically say that every time that we allow people to change lot lines, it was a platted lot. We allowed people to change lot lines. Sometimes it wasn't a platted lot. It was just a recorded deed, and we let them make an alteration by getting a new survey and recording a new deed. So I can't tell you how many times in 28 years it's been a recorded lot that was altered. I just don't know. Could it have happened? Yes, it certainly could have happened, but I don't know how.
I got a question, Mr. Chairman.
Yes, sir.
On the one encroachment at the top of Lot 3, Block M, there's a pool there, correct?
That's correct.
All right, and it goes right along the lot line,
Well, the
and then it goes into lot
line goes actually.
3. So it looks like the pool was built on the lot line and encroached on the other lot.
That's correct. It went right through the middle of the pool.
Because at the
That
time,
doesn't show that on here.
Well, they're
It doesn't show that on, it doesn't show
drawing-
that on here that it goes through the middle of the pool. It shows an encroachment of 17.33 feet. And it shows that the pool is totally on lot
The-
3,
Are you looking
block
at the red
M.
line that goes right through the pool?
No, it doesn't show that.
May I-
Hold, let him finish speaking.
It
Okay.
doesn't,
Let
it
him
doesn't
finish
show
speaking.
that. The red line goes to the right-hand side of the pool, and it's a square, green square there. It does not show that it goes through the middle of the pool.
Do you not see that little circle that goes on the other side of the red line?
Okay, the pool, so why is that whole
Because we're
green?
drawing out, that's part of the lot line we're drawing out.
Okay, but why are you doing that? I mean, when the pool doesn't take up the whole area right there. In other words, you're making the encroachment bigger by the way you've got it shaped
Okay,
out.
there's a concrete block that goes around the pool that doesn't show there, and there's also a pump house, there's like a little square in the middle of that block. So the pump and the pool all are like,
And the elongated, encroachment, what is that?
where out.
The long one.
The out in front?
In the middle.
You got a pool, and then you got another green shaded encroachment.
Okay,
What is
that's
that?
where the house was, built in 1975 or 6. That, the big house actually encroaches in on the property, so that's being drawn out. You see where it goes through like the actual house?
Goes through one of my son's bedrooms
Yeah.
in the back of the house.
So you didn't have this property surveyed or anything to know that you were encroaching on the additional lot there?
I owned the whole thing, and I never had
Yeah,
planned
Chris,
to
it
build.
didn't matter. If you own 2 lots, we doesn't require a replat. We let you build across lot lines.
Well, I
when you build
understand
on
that, but
property.
now we're coming back.
Right, now
Now
it
we're
makes a
coming
difference.
back and want to carve up this lot, where if you didn't encroach into that other lot, you wouldn't be here doing this today. That's what I'm saying.
That's correct, yeah.
And lot 3 is a half a lot, I'm understanding. It's a
Right.
platted lot, I'm not saying it's not buildable.
Right.
But it's only a half a lot, because if you look at the other lot on the right-hand side, that's a full lot.
No, it's the other half of, my lot 4 is full.
Yeah, it's twice
I-
as wide as the one that y'all got shaded in
Yes.
red.
Exactly.
And there's a big house on the other half. What happened is, when I bought this property, the people who owned the other half and I had an agreement we would never build between us. But then that gentleman died and his heirs sold his, and there's a house that just sold for $630,000 on their half a lot. I'm only selling mine for like $300,000, but, because I built a smaller house than they did, but,
But you're right, yeah. Back in the 70s, when the house was built, nobody thought about, lot lines back then. I mean, things were different obviously back then. And then back in 2004, when we built the new house on the half lot, it was surveyed then, and the planning and zoning came out, and they approved everything was done back when that was done. Now, were there some errors on everybody's fault? Absolutely. That's what we're trying to correct today. I mean, we drew it out. That's why we're trying to correct the lots.
and the only reason I built the house on the half lot was to protect my investment, because they had built on the other half. And if I didn't build, it would look like that half lot went with someone else's house, and I wouldn't get my investment back. So it's just,
But these drawouts and giving to the lots are just trying to correct the situation. We understand that there's an error, but we're just trying to do the best we can with what we have.
Question, Mr. Chairman?
Yes, sir.
I suppose a title binder has been issued on this contract, and is there an exception, or is there a requirement to give good title?
No, that my understanding is this, as long as this is approved, title insurance is already good to go. We've been told that they'll issue clear title on it with the approval of this drawing.
No, Commissioner, there's a bit of a misunderstanding on what title insurance actually covers, I guess, in the general public. I actually happen to be a part owner of a title company. Title insurance companies do not ensure compliance with governmental regulations, so they're not going to get a title policy that says this is a buildable lot moving forward under county regulations. I think what's probably really driving this is that the buyers are aware with these different encroachments and the reconfiguration and changing of the existing lot of record will then convert this from a buildable lot of record, even though it's a half a lot. Once you start making changes on it, it then becomes a non-conforming use potentially in the future if the existing structure is destroyed and they may not be allowed to rebuild. So the fact that there's a title binder, the title company could go in and insure this all day long right now without Franklin County doing anything, because they're not ensuring compliance with governmental regulations such as compliance with your zoning code or the floodplain ordinance or any other county ordinance. So the fact that the title binder's been issued is a little bit of a, I don't think it's sort of distracting to the county. Your real issue here is that they are, because of the fact that you had one owner of multiple lots who built structures and improvements across the platted lot lines, which wasn't a problem until they wanted to sell the half lot. In order for them to sell a half lot, and in order for Franklin County, and I think the county is going above and beyond to help them retain the buildability of this half lot moving forward, but in order for them to accomplish that goal, they have to replat this lot line. They can't do that until they do the replat. So,
Follow-up question. And the time frame to accomplish that, you say is
From the
a
county's-
month, and then they say it's 3.5 months?
from the county's standpoint, I think that we can deal with this as going straight to a final replat, which means you don't have to go to a P and Z meeting and show a sketch plat, and then come to another meeting and show your preliminary, and then go to a third meeting and show your final. Since all they're doing is adjusting one lot line, I think they can proceed directly to final plat approval, which means they need to have their surveyor prepare the replat for, for these two lots, send it to the county staff for review, have that, planning and zoning committee look at that proposed replat, and then make a recommendation. I would say based on their prior approval of the reconfiguration of the lot line, they're going to approve the replat and then send the replat to you for approval. Now, how long it takes them to get the plat prepared to send it to your staff, that I don't know.
Would it be just
Mr.
these two
Chairman.
lots, not the entire
Yeah,
subdivision?
just these two.
Just the two?
Mr.
That's what
Chairman.
we've been doing
Yes,
on the
ma'am.
island, when they combine these lots, is they do a replat just for the lots that they're combining, whether it's 2 lots or 3 lots or however many lots.
I think that was what part of my motion was, that once they do the replat, they send it, make sure staff approves it. Once they approve it, then it's sent, and they can do whatever they got to. That it doesn't have to come back
Right.
here.
Well, it actually come back
You
here
don't
for
have
you
to
to
come
I
sell.
mean, come back here, yeah, to make sure, but other than that, they don't have to go through all those planning and zoning meetings and
Yeah,
all
Ms.
that.
Withers, I shouldn't say this, but I think Thurman is thinking he's got to get everybody's signature and replat a large thing. It's just a property you own, so it's only your signatures on the plat that has to be dealt with, or the bank if it's a mortgage holder. But
It's the encroachment.
Yeah, but he only has to survey and resurvey and certify your property, not anybody else's.
Well, since we're just now finding out that this isn't something that's been talked about, I appreciate y'all clarifying this for us. So if we don't have to go through that whole process.
That's right.
And you're telling us, because all we know is what we're being told at this point. And we were told by our surveyor that it had 3 to 6 months, had to go through all the different boards again, the notice has to be given, newspapers, all that stuff. So what you're saying is we do not have to do that, get the replat done, go through the planning and zoning board, have them sign off on it, then it come directly to you guys at the next will y'all see it at whatever meeting we can get you in front of? Would that be?
Yeah.
Okay, whether it's the billing or the one, I'd appreciate your consideration.
You get it done, and Michael will get it on here just as soon as you get it done, and we'll go do it.
And as much as your property's been surveyed out, they shouldn't have any problem. That's why I couldn't,
right now.
that's what I'm saying. I don't even know why
Well-
there was such a
Can
problem
you
with it.
approve it now, subject to?
No,
the-
ma'am.
No, it has to come back,
Yeah.
okay.
No, all we know is we told we had to have the whole thing replatted. You're just now giving us this information, this is the first we've gotten it, so we appreciate your clarification on that.
Just a bad understanding on it. As soon as y'all get that done, we can.
As soon as they get it done,
Yeah.
we'll pass it. If he can get 30 days, it'll be passed.
Okay.
Hi, I'm Robin with Jeff Galloway Real Estate, and I represent the buyer. And just one question about this. We're talking about a subdivision. Now, this is a personal property. It's not technically a subdivision per se, like we're not replatting a whole big area of subdivision. We're talking about a boundary line change.
But in a subdivision, it's already platted, that's the distinction.
Okay, but it's platted, but is it actually considered a subdivision? Or is it just a personal property that person?
2 lots, isn't it?
It's 10-point unit, whatever, it's a plat subdivision.
Okay, so you do have to do it, you can't just do a boundary line change.
That's what I was talking about, like East Point, as an example, is unplatted, so there you do a boundary line change, you just record a new deed.
Right.
Go into change in the script.
Okay.
But this is a plat.
Okay, that's all I just wanted to say. Thank you.
All right, and I'm gonna say this, I have a question now. So, Mr. Chu, I believe the other 2 items can't move forward because we can't give you a variance on a lot that hasn't been created yet. So I think we would do the variances for these setbacks.
Just do everything at the
Do
same
everything at the
time.
time, yes. So we'll do your replat and these variances all at the same time.
Which would be number
Okay.
2 and 3 on your
Yeah.
Board of Adjustment report.
Thank you very much.